The Ford Transit Connect, the brand spanking new Ram ProMaster City, and of course the Nissan NV200. Red, white, and blue. How ironic that these three new vans compete for your dollar in the small van utility market here in America, yet none of them are American. Be that as it may, let's find out which of these three is the best van in the land, and that is coming up next on the Fast Lane Truck. You know what? It's remarkable how similar all three of these vans are. They all have sliding doors on both sides. They all have, at least most of them have, a very big glass, almost fishbowl-like frontal area so you can see where you're driving, making them easy to park. And of course, they all have a lot of utility with the engine in the front powering the front wheels. So at least from the outside, they're all pretty much on an equal basis. Alright guys, I'm in the Nissan NV200, and the biggest difference, of course, once again, is in the transmission. This being a Nissan, it has a, I'm sure you know what, a CVT. That's right, it's got a CVT. And it's got the best MPG in the city. And I've got my little cheat sheet here, and it is 24 combined, which is very good. It has the smallest engine, just a 2-liter. And of course, the least amount of horsepower. Now the Nissan's a bit different. It's got a smaller engine, a 2-liter that puts out 131 horsepower and 139 pound-foot of torque. In the city, it gets the best overall fuel economy, 24, but on the highway, only 25. Go figure. Discs up front, drums in the back. Pretty standard. How does it drive? You know, it drives the smallest of the three. When you look out the front, you see very, very short overhangs, which means that there's not necessarily a lot of places that you won't be able to park this. The steering is very light. I'm not going to really talk about driver feel, because vans aren't about driver feel. They're all about utility. And from a utilitarian point of view, this has a nice feature. There's a center console right here that allows you to store full-sized forms. So if you're using this as your everyday work truck, you can actually put the kind of files that you would hang in a cabinet into the center section here. And that's probably one of the most thoughtful features of the Nissan. Let's see how it accelerates. It does have that typical CVT kind of acceleration pattern, which means a lot of noise and not a lot of power. But in general, it's very easy to drive and very comfortable to sit in. It feels, in some ways, unfortunately, the cheapest of all three. A lot of really rough plastics, hard plastics. But unlike, let's say, the Ram, it does have a window sill that you can rest your hand upon. Since all three of these vans are remarkably similar, we're really talking about stuff that separates them, that lives along the edges. For instance, this Ford Transit Connect has a 2.5-liter engine that puts out 169 horsepower and 171 pound-foot of torque. It's paired to a 6-speed automatic transmission that drives the front wheels. I am in the Ford. Looky there. It looks just like a Ford Focus or a Fiesta with this kind of very Ford-like modern screen and button layout. Very familiar in here. I think if you guys own a Ford, this would feel right at home. Now, I also have a sport mode, so let's put in sport mode. Why not? If you need to get something to your customers very fast, you might want to use the sport mode. And you know what? This feels and is a lot more sorted and modern than the Nissan. This feels more contemporary to the Ram, in fact. There's just more of a solid feel to it. Now let's do the turn here. Can't do the full turn, so I have to do a 3-point turn as always. And interestingly, since this is a cargo van, I don't have a rearview mirror, so I got to use the 2 side mirrors because I don't have a backup camera, which is a very handy thing to have indeed. Let's give it a little bit of beans. 6 speed. Woo! Not bad at all. Not bad at all. It's pretty perky. That when you go from 6 to 9 gears, you perhaps increase your fuel economy because there's a greater range of gears to choose from for the engine. But, you know, 6 gears is fine, especially for this use. Very modern, kind of, I'm going to call it Ford chic, if that works for all you van people out there. The ride is good, it doesn't bounce you around too much. It also has this nice storage compartment that the Ram has, but unlike the Ram, there are holes, so you can actually see what's up there. With the Ram, I think it's hard to be able to poke your head up there to actually see what you have stored inside of the cubbyhole up here. You know, vans are about livability, they're about utility, and of course they're about value. And there's not a lot of difference between all 3 of these vans. At some point, it really becomes about kind of what you like as a brand and what kind of a fleet deal you can get. Remember I said the differences are along the edges. What separates this Ram ProMaster City from the Ford and the Nissan NV is, of course, the 9-speed transmission, 178 horsepower. It also gets very similar fuel economy. Ram will tell you best in class 29 on the highway, but in the city 21, very similar to the other 2. I'm in the Ram now, the newest of the bunch. I've got my little cheat sheet here. It's 26,750 as tested. That is 3,000 more than the Nissan. More expensive, but it feels more expensive. There's just a lot more modern looking materials. It looks and feels a lot wider. It drives a lot more competently. It doesn't feel quite as tinny as a Nissan felt. And of course, it's got the most gears of them all. It's got the 9-speed transmission, unlike the other 2 vans, which have a CVT and a 6-speed transmission. Perhaps one of the most useful features of the ProMaster City is that it has sliding doors on both sides of the van. Plus, if you slide it open hard, it locks in place. You can also get it configured like this van, which is a cargo van, which has 131.7 cubic feet best-in-class space, or you can get it with a second row seat to make it into a 5-passenger people mover. There we go. From a utility and kind of livability standpoint, actually, I'm gonna try to make a U-turn here. See how it tests? I'm gonna try the 3-point turn. It didn't work. I think it actually has a little bit worse turning radius than the Nissan, just kind of going based on this 3-point turn I just had to make. From a livability standpoint, I'd rather spend time in here. Even though I can't rest my arm like I can in the Nissan, it's just a nicer place to spend time. In fact, if I didn't look out the back, I'd be hard-pressed to tell that I'm in a van at all. This could be, you know, a regular mid-entry level sort of car. Ram will tell you that this small van is best in class. And what I mean by best in class is best in class in the way that most people use these vans, and that is load space. It has the most space in the back for the needs of a small business. It also has very thoughtful features like these doors that open all the way to allow you to load a full pallet of whatever you need to carry. There is a little quirk though, and that is if you close these in the wrong order, what I mean by that is like this, because of the clamshell design, they won't close. So you got to get used to closing them in the right order. From a visibility standpoint, the Nissan slopes straight down. Here you can see the fenders. I suspect that's a good thing. I think the Nissan's a little bit easier to drive. It feels a little bit smaller, and that's probably because it is a little bit smaller. This van has the best-in-class cargo room at 131.7 cubic feet. But I can tell you right away that the Nissan has much better turning radius. So for a city, tight parking situation, the Nissan's just a little bit better. So which of these three is the best van in the land? Well, I'm going to give you a mixed answer. I think the Ford is the best looking van. I think that the Ram is certainly the best riding, and of course the newest with that 9-speed transmission. And of course the Nissan has the best fuel economy, even though the looks, well, I'll let you decide. I know this is a Japanese van, but overall, three of these vans are very European in flavor. Wouldn't it be cool if we had a truly American van as opposed to rebranded European vans? As always, this is Roman reporting for the Fast Lane Truck. Check out tfltruck.com for more news, views, and of course, van reviews. Ciao!